Winter 1614. Osaka Castle, Japan's most impregnable fortress, seals its gates as 200,000 Tokugawa troops close in. Every stranger is interrogated, every face scrutinized. One wrong word means death. Yet somehow, a silk merchant enters with samples from Kyoto, stays 3 days measuring rooms for custom tapestries, and leaves with complete knowledge of the castle's defenses, supply levels, and which retainers secretly negotiate surrender. Whether that merchant was ninja, we'll never know. But Notori Masazumi's 1681 manual, Shoninki, shows us exactly what he would have been. Akindo, the merchant whose business was not commerce, but espionage. Today we decode the most sophisticated disguise in ninja history, because while monks raised suspicion and entertainers drew attention, merchants were invited in, welcomed, and left alone with secrets. You'll discover how ninja weaponized economic necessity itself, turning survival needs into the ultimate infiltration key. Welcome to the Shoninki's darkest revelation: invisibility through absolute visibility. Before we dissect the techniques, understand what Akindo truly represents in the Shoninki's deadly taxonomy of deception. Akindo literally means merchant or trader, but in Notori Masazumi's system, it means something far more sophisticated. A complete operational framework that transforms commercial relationships into weapons of infiltration. In feudal Japan's rigid 4-tier class system, Shi no Kosho, warrior, farmer, artisan, merchant. Merchants occupied the bottom rung. They produced nothing. They merely moved goods for profit. To a samurai, merchants were socially invisible, necessary evils unworthy of serious attention or respect. This social invisibility was exactly what ninja weaponized. The Shoninki places Akindo first among the 7 disguises for calculated reasons. It provided the widest access, deepest trust, and most sustainable long-term operations of any identity. Notori writes with clinical precision. In essence, the monk may enter sacred spaces, but the merchant enters everywhere. The entertainer draws attention, but the merchant is forgotten. The samurai commands respect, but the merchant commands necessity. This wasn't about putting on merchant clothes or carrying trade goods. It was about becoming someone whose presence served the target's economic interests so completely that questioning them felt counterproductive. Akindo answered 4 strategic questions with ruthless clarity. Who trusts this person? Where is this person allowed to go? What questions can this person ask without suspicion? What does the target lose by refusing them access? The genius lay in asymmetry. The castle needed the merchant more than the merchant needed the castle. That dependency forced even paranoid lords to lower their guard. This is Akindo's foundational principle. Become someone whose intelligence gathering is indistinguishable from legitimate professional behavior. The Shoninki opens its Akindo section with cold calculation. Every castle needs what merchants bring. This need creates access no sword can force, no wall can block, no guard can deny without destroying what he protects. Consider the logistics of a Sengoku period castle, a city within walls consuming massive resources daily. Salt to preserve food, medicine for the sick, iron for weapons, paper for records, luxury goods for diplomatic gifts. Cut off merchant access, and a domain withered from economic strangulation. This created what modern psychology calls necessity override, when survival needs trump security protocols. A guard might despise merchants personally, but he couldn't turn away the man bringing rice during famine or gunpowder before battle. Economic reality forced gates open. But the access penetrated deeper than gates. Merchants entered the castle's nervous system, spaces where information flowed freely because no one considered merchants threats worth guarding against. Access Level 1, the commercial spaces. Storerooms revealed supply quantities through inventory discussions. How much do you need monthly wasn't suspicious. It was calculating future orders. Access Level 2, the service corridors. Merchants navigating between storage, kitchens, and display rooms mapped interior layouts, guard positions, and daily routine patterns while appearing to conduct normal business. Access Level 3, the private chambers. Displaying luxury goods, silk screens, ceramic tea sets, decorative weapons, brought merchants into lords' personal spaces, where they observed health, relationships, and decision-making processes. Access Level 4, the information networks. Merchants naturally conversed with other merchants, servants, and minor officials, the invisible people who knew everything but were never directly questioned by security. Most crucially, merchant behavior that would trigger immediate suspicion from anyone else was expected, normal, and completely unremarkable in its apparent innocence. A samurai asking, "How much rice do you store?" was obviously a spy. A merchant asking the same question was calculating supply contracts. The intent was identical. The perception was opposite. This reveals Akindo's deeper strategy. Don't try to avoid suspicion. Weaponize it by becoming someone the target needs to trust and protect. The Shoninki warns with chilling directness. The merchant who remembers he is ninja dies when his eyes betray him. The merchant who forgets he was ever anything else survives to complete his mission. Creating this depth of psychological transformation required 3 interlocking layers of identity construction, each more demanding and dangerous than the last. Layer 1. Surface believability, the gate test. This is what guards assessed in seconds. Does this person look, sound, and move like what they claim to be? Clothing had to match claimed trade with perfect accuracy. Silk merchants wore finer fabrics with subtle patterns indicating quality. Salt traders dressed practically with clothes showing wear from travel and loading. But clothing was just the beginning. The body told deeper stories that couldn't be faked without genuine experience over years. A merchant's hands revealed his trade through specific callus patterns. Hemp rope merchants had distinctive burns on palms and thumb bases. Abacus users showed slight finger deformation from years of bead manipulation. Fabric handlers had smoother fingertips from constant textile contact. Posture and movement patterns were equally revealing. Merchants who transported goods developed slight forward lean from carrying loads. Those who sat at market stalls had different spinal curvature than those who traveled constantly. Even eye movement patterns differed. When entering new spaces, merchants automatically assessed wealth markers, tatami quality, ceramic styles, hanging scroll artists, furniture wood types, all indicating purchasing power and social status. Warriors automatically assessed tactical features, exit locations, weapon positions, defensive advantages, potential threats. These assessment patterns were unconscious, developed through years of training and combat experience. The Shoninki describes intensive training, where students were interrogated by instructors playing suspicious guards, with failure meaning death of their cover identity, and complete training restart from the beginning. Layer 2. Verifiable background, the history test. Surface believability got you through the gate. Sustaining the deception under sustained questioning required a second layer. Can you prove you are who you claim through knowledge, connections, and verifiable details? This layer demanded months or even years of preparation, because ninja had to withstand investigation by people who knew the merchant world intimately and could spot inconsistencies immediately. They apprenticed with real merchants, learning not just how to sell, but how to think commercially, calculating profit margins, assessing quality through multiple senses, understanding market dynamics across regions and seasons. They memorized entire supply networks with verifiable precision. I sourced this silk from Nishijin weavers in Kyoto, specifically a master weaver's workshop on Nishiki-Koji Street. Transport via Tokaido Road with rest stops at Shimada Checkpoint, store at Okazaki Warehouse before final delivery. Every detail was cross-referenceable. Other merchants could confirm the Kawashima workshop existed and produced that quality. Checkpoint records showed merchants with those goods passing through. Warehouse operators remembered storage arrangements. They learned regional market knowledge that only genuine practitioners possessed. Seasonal price fluctuations for specific goods, quality variations between production areas, proper grading terminology, standard profit margins, guild customs and hierarchies. A silk merchant had to distinguish between different weave patterns, tsumugi, chirimen, rinzu, and explain why each commanded different prices in different markets during different seasons. Failure meant immediate exposure and death. They cultivated relationships with other merchants who could vouch for them. Yes, I know Yamaguchi-san. We've traded for 3 years. Reliable man, fair prices, quality goods. These references were often other ninja in merchant roles, creating verification networks. Layer 3. Unconscious authenticity, the psychological reality. The deepest and most psychologically demanding level. Can you maintain the identity when your conscious mind is focused elsewhere, when stress peaks, when unexpected situations demand instant, authentic responses? The Shoninki describes this with unsettling precision. The disguise requiring conscious maintenance will fail when the mind must attend to danger. Only the identity that has become unconscious truth survives crisis. This meant ninja had to rewire their own perception and reflexes to match their assumed identity so completely that authentic responses emerged automatically, even under extreme stress. You drop a sword on the floor next to a real merchant. He flinches at the sound, maybe backs away nervously. You drop a sword next to a trained warrior pretending to be a merchant. He might unconsciously assess it as a weapon, orient his body toward the potential threat, or show micro-expressions of tactical evaluation. Natori understood this neurological vulnerability centuries before modern science, warning in essence, the hand that has gripped a sword for 10 years will remember before the mind can stop it. To achieve unconscious authenticity, ninja underwent what modern psychology calls method acting.
so deeply inhabiting a role that conscious deception becomes unconscious reality. They thought in merchant terms constantly, seeing fine silk screens and automatically calculating, that's Nishijin work, probably 15 Ryo in Kyoto, could sell for 22 in Edo. Not, that could conceal a person behind it. They cultivated merchant emotional responses, satisfaction at successful negotiations, anxiety about supply delays, frustration with unreasonable customers, pride in quality goods, concern about profit margins. The Shoninki's most chilling directive: to become the merchant, you must forget you are ninja. The moment you remember your true nature, your eyes change. That change kills you. At this level, even if woken from sleep and questioned abruptly, their first emotional and intellectual responses would align perfectly with their merchant identity, because it had become their primary psychological reality.
The merchant who remembers he's ninja dies. That line hit different, didn't it? If you just realize the terrifying line between acting and becoming, like and subscribe, because Osaka Castle is about to show this in action. And if you want deeper study of real historical texts behind these techniques, check the ninja books in our description and comments. Worth every page. The winter and summer sieges of Osaka, 1614 to 1615, provide a highly plausible case study of how Akindo networks probably operated at scale, though specific ninja involvement requires careful interpretation of documented intelligence patterns. What we know with high confidence from Tokugawa military records, their forces possessed detailed intelligence about Osaka Castle's defenses, supply levels, internal political tensions, and defensive capabilities months before the siege began. This intelligence couldn't have come from military reconnaissance alone. The castle was sealed, patrols were intensive, and any obvious spy would be caught and executed immediately. Yet Tokugawa commanders knew precisely which sections of wall were weakest, where supplies were stored, how long the garrison could sustain siege, which retainers might negotiate surrender, and when morale would crack under pressure. Historical analysis of intelligence patterns, siege timing, and tactical decisions suggests a coordinated merchant network operating through legitimate commercial channels, the signature of sophisticated Akindo operations as described in the Shoninki. The Silk Merchant, Interior Intelligence. Let's reconstruct how a ninja using silk merchant identity might have operated, based on documented merchant access patterns and the specific intelligence that Tokugawa forces demonstrated. Entry was straightforward. Osaka Castle needed luxury goods for diplomatic purposes and lord's quarters. A silk merchant from Kyoto with genuine high-quality samples and reasonable prices would be welcomed, not suspected. The pretext was perfect. I can create custom tapestries and screens for your chambers, but I need precise measurements and must understand your aesthetic preferences to ensure complete satisfaction. This innocent commercial requirement gave license to measure room dimensions, count paces between locations, observe wall thickness, note window positions, and map interior layouts, all critical intelligence for siege planning. What colors does the Lord prefer? Became reconnaissance about which rooms he frequented. Where will these be displayed? Revealed private chamber locations and usage patterns. How much light enters at different times? Mapped sun exposure for timing potential attacks. Over 3 days inside, the merchant took measurements, showed samples, discussed aesthetic options, while observing guard rotations, patrol patterns, servant movements, and defensive preparations with the trained eye of a military analyst. The medicine trader. Health and readiness assessment. Another ninja might have operated as a medicine merchant, using different access points to gather complementary intelligence about garrison capabilities and vulnerabilities. Medicine traders had unique access privileges. They consulted with castle physicians about garrison health, discussed treatment needs for common ailments, and observed sick or wounded warriors, all revealing combat readiness and morale. How many men are currently ill wasn't suspicious. It was calculating medicine quantities for future orders. The answer revealed garrison strength and current health status. What injuries are most common? Disclosed training intensity and accident rates. What diseases have you treated recently? Reveals sanitation conditions and epidemic vulnerabilities that could be exploited. By observing which medicines were requested in what quantities, the trader could estimate garrison size, overall health conditions, and how long they could sustain siege without medical resupply. The sake dealer. Servant network cultivation. A third ninja might have posed as a sake dealer, using alcohol delivery as cover for accessing the most valuable intelligence source. Castle servants who knew everything, but were never directly questioned. Servants were invisible to samurai, but completely visible to merchants who treated them as fellow working people rather than furniture or tools to be ignored. A sake dealer bringing deliveries to kitchens had perfect access to this human intelligence network, and alcohol provided the social lubricant for information extraction. Generous samples of premium sake loosened tongues and created gratitude. Sympathizing with servant burdens created genuine rapport. Asking about work conditions revealed internal dynamics and tensions. Servants knew everything that mattered: which lords were ill and how seriously, which retainers feuded and over what issues, where guards stationed at different times, when patrol schedules changed, what supplies were running dangerously low, which samurai secretly sent messages to Tokugawa negotiators. This intelligence was fragmentary from any single source. No individual servant knew complete pictures. But a skilled operative gathering pieces from multiple sources could assemble comprehensive understanding of the castle's true condition. The network effect, assembling the complete picture. The genius of coordinated Akindo operations was that each merchant's intelligence seemed incomplete and innocent when viewed individually. Just normal commercial observations and business conversations. The silk merchant knew interior layouts, but not supply levels. The medicine trader knew garrison health, but not defensive positions. The sake dealer knew internal tensions, but not military capabilities. But combined at Tokugawa Intelligence Headquarters, these seemingly unrelated commercial fragments formed complete strategic pictures. Where to attack for maximum effect, when to attack for optimal timing, how long the siege would realistically take, which retainers might defect under pressure. This network approach provided multiple operational advantages: redundancy if one operative was compromised, verification through cross-referencing different sources, and plausible deniability since no single merchant gathered obviously military intelligence. The siege's documented outcomes strongly supports this interpretation. Tokugawa forces applied pressure at precisely the weakest structural and psychological points, exploited internal political tensions with surgical precision, and achieved victory faster than pure military advantage alone would predict. While specific ninja involvement in Osaka intelligence gathering isn't directly documented in primary sources, the pattern of intelligence Tokugawa possessed, the methods they used, and the precision of their strategic decisions align closely with Shoninki's Akindo techniques. This represents scholarly interpretation of documented intelligence outcomes rather than confirmed operational details. Once inside with established trust and merchant credibility, Ninja deployed systematic intelligence collection techniques that appeared as completely normal commercial behavior to any observer. The art lay in asking questions that served obvious business purposes, while extracting military intelligence as a hidden secondary layer that targets never recognized. Technique 1. The custom goods measurement pretext. Offering bespoke items, tapestries, clothing, decorative screens, architectural elements, created legitimate need for detailed physical reconnaissance disguised as commercial service. I need precise room dimensions for the silt panels you requested. Became licensed to map defensive layouts. Wall thickness affects hanging methods. Assessed structural strength. Window positions determine light exposure for color selection. Revealed potential entry points and sightlines. How many rooms need furnishing? Counted chambers and estimated castle size. Where do honored guests stay? Identified less secured areas. Which rooms does the Lord use for different activities? Pinpointed high-value targets and routine patterns. Every measurement serves dual purposes. Genuine commercial need for custom work and precise military intelligence for siege planning. The merchant's notebook filled with dimensions that siege engineers would later use for assault calculations. Technique 2. Supply chain assessment conversations. Discussing castle consumption needs and delivery schedules revealed logistical information critical for calculating siege endurance and identifying supply vulnerabilities. How much rice do you consume monthly? Calculated future orders and revealed garrison size plus civilian population. When do you typically need deliveries? Disclosed resupply schedules and timing patterns. Where should I bring goods? Mapped storage locations and access routes. These conversations felt completely natural. Merchants genuinely needed this information for business planning and relationship building. Guards and officials never suspected that commercial discussions were actually siege preparation intelligence gathering. Technique 3. Quality assessment and professional observations. Merchants examining goods quality had legitimate professional reasons to inspect and comment on everything from food stores to weapon maintenance. Observations that revealed overall military readiness. Your rice quality is excellent. Where do you source it? Assessed food supply condition and supply chain security. I noticed some weapons need maintenance. I know excellent smiths. Observed armory status and equipment readiness. Your horses look well fed and healthy. Evaluated cavalry readiness and resource allocation. The staff seem hard-working and well-treated. Assessed morale and internal stability. These observations seemed like small talk or professional commentary, not intelligence gathering. But they revealed whether the garrison was well supplied, properly equipped, maintaining high morale, and ready for extended siege operations. Technique 4. Competitive intelligence and network mapping. Asking about other visiting merchants and the goods they brought served dual purposes: legitimate business intelligence about market competition and identification of potential rival ninja or compromised networks. What other silk merchants visit regularly? Mapped commercial access patterns and potential cover identities. What prices do they typically charge? Established market context and identified suspiciously low profit operations. How often do they come? Revealed supply chain rhythms and timing patterns. Do they bring goods from the same regions I do? identified potential conflicts or coordination opportunities. If another merchant was actually a ninja from a rival faction, these seemingly innocent questions might expose them through knowledge gaps, suspicious behavior patterns, or inconsistent commercial logic. The most sophisticated Akindo operations involved infiltrating entire merchant guild structures, transforming legitimate commercial organizations into intelligence networks that could operate across multiple domains simultaneously. Guild infiltration, the ultimate verification system. Merchant guilds controlled trade throughout feudal Japan, providing travel permits, checkpoint priority, quality standards, and most crucially, mutual verification networks that made identities nearly unbreakable. Guild membership meant other merchants could vouch for your legitimacy. Yes, I know Yamaguchi-san from the Silk Guild. We've done business together. Reliable trader, quality goods, fair dealing, pays his guild dues promptly. For ninja, infiltrating guilds meant acquiring verification networks that made their merchant identities extremely difficult to challenge. Even suspicious officials hesitated to question guild-verified merchants without substantial evidence. This created layered psychological protection. Even if one merchant identity was suspected, multiple guild members vouching for them made investigators question their own suspicions and worry about falsely accusing legitimate traders. Master-apprentice structure, training in plain sight. Experienced ninja operated as established merchants, with younger operatives as apprentices, creating perfect cover for training, knowledge transfer, and operational coordination. The apprentice's incomplete knowledge was expected and unremarkable. He was learning the trade from his master. The master's patient instruction and correction was normal commercial behavior. He was training his successor and protecting his business reputation. This structure allowed experienced operatives to guide newer ones through actual intelligence operations while maintaining complete legitimacy and providing hands-on training in real-world conditions. Guards and officials saw merchants training apprentices in normal commercial practices, never suspecting they were witnessing ninja teaching infiltration techniques and intelligence-gathering methods. Competing merchant networks, rivalry as operational cover. Multiple ninja posed as merchants from supposedly rival houses or different regions, publicly competing for business, while privately coordinating comprehensive intelligence-gathering operations. Their commercial competition provided perfect cover for frequent contact and information exchange. I need to check what my rival is offering. Justified observing each other's activities and coordinating operational details. Price wars and trade disputes explained tension and conflict that might otherwise seem suspicious to observers who didn't understand the competitive dynamics of merchant relationships. But privately, they coordinated with military precision. I'll focus on castle layout intelligence. You concentrate on supply assessment. The third operative will cultivate servant networks and gather political intelligence. If one merchant identity was compromised during operations, rivals could plausibly distance themselves. We're competitors, not business associates. Investigations rarely connected supposedly hostile merchants, allowing networks to survive individual exposure. Supply chain integration, end-to-end intelligence pipelines. The most ambitious operations positioned ninja at multiple points throughout supply chains. Producers, transporters, and sellers creating comprehensive intelligence networks tracking goods, information, and people from origin to final destination. This provided complete visibility into economic flows. A ninja silk producer in Kyoto could mark goods with subtle indicators, The ninja transporter would note which castles received marked goods and in what quantities. The ninja seller would observe consumption patterns and customer behavior. End-to-end supply chain infiltration revealed not just current status, but trends over time. Increasing consumption suggested military buildup. Decreasing consumption suggested economic strain. Changing preferences suggested political realignments or leadership changes. These networks could also facilitate other operations, moving personnel, weapons, or messages along established commercial routes that were already trusted and rarely inspected thoroughly. Beyond physical access and information-gathering capabilities, Akindo weaponized specific psychological vulnerabilities embedded deep within feudal social structures and warrior class conditioning. Vulnerability 1. Status blindness and threat miscalibration. Samurai were trained from childhood to read threats from other members of the warrior class. Posture indicating readiness for combat. Eye contact patterns signaling hostile intent. Hand positions near weapons. Movement rhythms suggesting attack preparation. But this sophisticated threat assessment system was calibrated exclusively for warrior class opponents. It largely ignored lower social classes as potential sources of danger, a massive blind spot that ninja exploited with ruthless efficiency. A merchant's deference, slight bow, downcast eyes, submissive body language, all the behavioral signals that indicated no threat to samurai threat detection systems could perfectly conceal a ninja gathering intelligence or positioning for assassination. The more perfectly a ninja embodied expected lower-class behavior, the more psychologically invisible he became to warrior threat assessment, because the class system itself functioned as a cognitive filter that screened out irrelevant social categories. Vulnerability 2. Economic dependency override. When castles faced urgent needs, medicine during epidemics, weapons before major battles, luxury goods for crucial diplomatic meetings, economic necessity systematically overrode security protocols and normal caution. The Shoninki describes this with cold precision. The lord who needs what you sell cannot afford to suspect you without proof. His need becomes your shield, his dependency your protection. During the 1614 Osaka buildup, the castle required massive supplies for the expected siege: food, weapons, medicine, materials for fortification. This created urgent economic demand that merchants could exploit. Security procedures were relaxed because supply needs were critical for survival. Vulnerability 3. Familiarity breeding security, complacency. Merchants making regular deliveries over months or years became familiar, trusted faces within castle communities. Guards stopped conducting thorough inspections, and the ninja's greatest protection became being recognized as the established merchant identity. "Oh, it's Yamaguchi-san with the monthly silk delivery," meant waving through checkpoints without detailed searches, questions, or verification procedures that would be applied to strangers or one-time visitors. This familiarity could be systematically cultivated over extended periods, creating access that seemed routine and unremarkable, rather than suspicious or noteworthy to security personnel. Vulnerability 4. The reciprocity and gratitude trap. Merchants providing valuable goods at favorable terms, offering fair prices during shortages, or delivering superior quality, created psychological debt and emotional bonds with customers. Recipients felt obligated to reciprocate through enhanced hospitality, preferential treatment, or voluntary information sharing that went beyond normal commercial interactions. A merchant offering quality silk at below-market prices during difficult times created genuine gratitude. He's treated us fairly when others gouged us. We can trust him with our needs and concerns. This reciprocity operated largely unconsciously. People didn't realize they were sharing sensitive information because the merchant had demonstrated trustworthiness through consistently beneficial commercial relationships. The Shoninki also taught defensive applications, systematic methods for catching enemy ninja using merchant disguises, revealing the specific tells and inconsistencies that exposed false identities under scrutiny. Detection Method 1. The comprehensive hand analysis. Professional merchants developed distinctive callus patterns that couldn't be faked without years of genuine work experience in specific trades. Hemp rope merchants had characteristic burns and roughness on palms and the base of thumbs from handling coarse rope under tension. Abacus users showed slight finger deformation and specific callus placement from years of bead manipulation in calculation work. Fabric handlers had notably smoother fingertips from constant contact with silk and other fine textiles, plus specific wear patterns from measuring and cutting. Sake dealers had different hand conditioning from handling ceramic containers and wooden barrels. Warriors developed completely different callus patterns, sword grip impressions on palms in distinctive locations, bowstring marks on drawing fingers, spear handling roughness on specific areas of the hands and forearms. Skilled counterintelligence operatives could identify a profession through careful hand examination, running their fingers over suspects' hands to feel callus patterns that revealed actual work history versus claimed merchant background. Detection Method 2. Regional dialect and market vocabulary testing. Merchants claiming specific regional origins had to demonstrate fluency in correct local dialects, including market-specific vocabulary and terminology that only genuine practitioners from those areas would know naturally. Each region had unique terms for weights, measures, quality grades, trade practices, and commercial customs. A Kyoto silk merchant who didn't use proper Kyoto market terminology, pricing conventions, or guild references was immediately exposed as an imposter. Skilled interrogators would deliberately slip incorrect terms into conversations to see if the merchant corrected them. Genuine practitioners couldn't help correcting trade errors because professional knowledge was so deeply ingrained. Detection Method 3. The economic logic and profitability analysis. Merchants operating despite consistent financial losses, showing unconcern about profit margins, or making business decisions that defied commercial logic, raised immediate red flags for trained observers. Real merchants calculated constantly and visibly. At this price, with current transport costs, my margin is barely 8%. I need to negotiate better terms with suppliers or find more efficient routes to maintain profitability. A merchant who didn't demonstrate this profit consciousness, who accepted losses without apparent concern, who seemed more interested in access than income, was almost certainly operating with hidden objectives that had nothing to do with commerce. Detection Method 4. Technical knowledge, trap questions. Deep technical questions about specific trades that only genuine practitioners would know. Precise manufacturing processes, quality assessment techniques, seasonal market variations, proper professional terminology. To a silk merchant, what's the thread count difference between chirimen and renzu weaving? How do you assess raw silk quality before purchase? Which seasons produce the finest cocoons? To a medicine trader, how do you store herbs to prevent spoilage? What's the proper preparation method for this remedy? Which regions produce the most potent ginseng? Real merchants would answer immediately with technical precision, often becoming enthusiastic about their expertise. Fake merchants would hesitate, provide vague responses, or try to redirect conversations away from technical details. Detection Method 5. Relationship Network Verification. Genuine merchants had extensive, verifiable relationship networks. Suppliers, regular customers, competitors, guild members, transport contractors, and storage facility operators. Counterintelligence interrogators would systematically test these claimed relationships. Do you know Merchant X in Kyoto? What's your business relationship? When did you last trade with him? What goods did you exchange? Real merchants would have detailed, emotionally consistent stories about these relationships, including minor disputes, successful deals, personal quirks of business partners, and ongoing commercial dynamics. Cross-referencing these claims with other merchants, guild records, and checkpoint logs could reveal false identities. He claims extensive business with you, but you've never heard of him. Or, his claimed travel dates don't match checkpoint records. These detection methods reveal how sophisticated counterintelligence had become by the early Edo period, and why a ninja had to achieve such profound identity transformation to survive in increasingly security-conscious environments. Creating effective Akindo required training programs that went far beyond costume and basic acting, fundamentally transforming how ninja thought, perceived, reacted to, and interacted with their environment over extended periods. Phase 1. Commercial skills immersion and psychological reorientation. Students apprenticed with genuine merchants for months or even years, learning not just how to sell goods, but how to think commercially. A complete psychological transformation as important as any physical combat training. They learn to calculate profit margins instantly and automatically. Buy at 10 Ryo, transport costs 2 Ryo, storage and handling 1 Ryo. Sell at 15 Ryo. That's 2 Ryo profit on 13 Ryo total investment. Roughly 15% return, acceptable for this risk level and time commitment. They learn to assess quality through multiple senses simultaneously. Fabric texture revealing thread count and weave quality. Ceramic sound when tapped, indicating firing temperature and structural integrity. Tea aroma, suggesting origin and processing methods. Wood grain patterns revealing age and moisture content. They learned complex market dynamics, seasonal price fluctuations for specific goods, regional supply and demand variations, how weather patterns affected transport costs and delivery schedules, which goods were in high demand in different locations, and why. Most importantly, they learned to see the world through merchant eyes, automatically assessing commercial value and opportunity rather than tactical advantage and security threats. A complete cognitive reorientation. Phase 2. Identity stress testing and interrogation resistance. Students underwent repeated intensive interrogation while maintaining perfect merchant identity under increasing psychological and physical pressure, without any break in character or role consistency. Instructors played various hostile roles designed to expose identity cracks. Suspicious guards asking detailed questions, aggressive competitors challenging business claims, demanding customers, testing patience and professionalism. Your prices are suspiciously low. Are you a spy trying to buy access with gold? Your hands don't look like a merchant's. What's your real profession? I've never heard of your guild. Prove your membership with specific details. Students had to respond instantly with completely authentic merchant reactions, appropriate indignation at insults, detailed guild information delivered with professional pride, commercial justification for pricing strategies, and emotional responses matching claimed merchant background. Any hesitation, any unconscious warrior reflex, any momentary break in merchant psychology meant death in training scenarios and complete restart of the identity construction process from the beginning. Phase 3. Sustained identity maintenance under operational pressure. Advanced training involved maintaining merchant identity for weeks or months while simultaneously conducting actual trade operations and gathering intelligence under real-world pressure and scrutiny. This tested whether students could sustain the complete psychological transformation while managing dual objectives, commercial success and intelligence gathering, without identity compromise or mission failure. Some training operations became genuinely profitable through successful trade, creating self-funding intelligence networks that could operate indefinitely without external financial support. The ultimate test of identity authenticity. The Identity Consumption Challenge. The Shoninki acknowledges, but doesn't fully resolve, the deepest psychological danger of advanced Akindo training. The identity that becomes too psychologically real to abandon safely. Ninja who maintained merchant identities for years sometimes found they had genuinely become merchants in their own minds. The original mission faded into background. The disguise became their primary reality. The false identity consumed the original warrior self. The man who plays the merchant for 10 years is no longer playing. He has become the merchant. And the ninja exists only as a half-remembered dream of a different life. Whether this represented ultimate mission failure or the deepest possible success, an operative so completely integrated that even torture couldn't compromise him because he genuinely believed his own cover story, remained philosophically ambiguous in Notori's writings. The Shoninki includes remarkably sophisticated ethical guidelines that distinguish legitimate strategic deception from destructive manipulation. Moral considerations often absent from espionage discussions, even in modern contexts. Approved applications. Strategic intelligence for conflict prevention. Gathering intelligence to prevent larger conflicts, protect one's lord and domain, achieve political objectives with minimal violence and civilian casualties. These purposes justified Akindo operations, according to the manual's moral framework. The underlying reasoning was consequentialist. Better to deceive 10 merchants than to kill 1,000 soldiers. Better to gather intelligence through commerce than to acquire it through torture and execution. Prohibited applications. Personal enrichment and betrayal. Using merchant identity for personal profit rather than legitimate mission objectives was explicitly condemned as corruption of the technique and violation of ninja duty. A ninja who became wealthy through his merchant identity while neglecting intelligence gathering responsibilities had failed his primary obligation, regardless of how perfect his disguise or how successful his commercial operations. Similarly, betraying individual merchants who had shown genuine trust, damaging legitimate merchant networks, or creating suspicion that harmed innocent traders was strictly forbidden. The sustainability principle, protecting the weapon. The reasoning behind these ethical constraints was both moral and coldly practical. The ninja who destroys merchant trust destroys the weapon for all future operations. He burns the bridge that he and others must cross. This meant ninja merchants had to provide genuine commercial value, quality goods at fair prices, honored commitments, maintained professional reputations, even while gathering intelligence and pursuing covert objectives. Successful Akindo operations often became genuinely profitable enterprises, creating self-sustaining intelligence networks that could operate indefinitely while serving both commercial and strategic purposes. The relationship dilemma. Emotional complications of deep cover. Long-term merchant identities inevitably created real relationships with customers, suppliers, guild members, and local communities, generating emotional complications that the Shoninki acknowledges but cannot fully resolve. The merchant who feels nothing for those he deceives is a poor merchant. People sense his falseness and withdraw their trust. The merchant who cares too deeply for his customers may hesitate when mission requirements conflict with their welfare. This tension between operational effectiveness, requiring emotional authenticity, and mission loyalty, potentially requiring harm to trusted relationships, had no perfect solution, only awareness that both extremes led to different types of failure. The merchant who measured Osaka Castle's rooms for silk tapestries completed his mission and vanished into history. We'll never know his real name, but for 3 crucial days, he was the most trusted stranger in Japan's most secure fortress. The Shoninki's Akindo techniques prove that the most effective infiltration doesn't overcome security systems. It makes security welcome you with open arms. The most dangerous operative isn't hiding in shadows. They're standing in full light, wearing a face that actively serves your interests. 4 centuries later, these same principles operate in every corporate relationship where economic necessity systematically overrides security skepticism, where trusted vendors become invisible through their very usefulness. The next time someone becomes indispensable to your operations, they're probably exactly who they claim to be. Probably. But probably is where Akindo live eternally, in the gap between necessity and verification, wearing faces you need to trust because the alternative costs too much to contemplate. Remember the Shoninki's most unsettling lesson. The person selling you safety might be measuring you for a coffin, and the most dangerous questions are the ones you don't recognize as questions at all.